Okay, so now we are going to learn about reflexive verbs. So, reflexive verbs are a little complicated because English doesn't have them the same way as Spanish does. So, what are reflexive verbs? So, they're basically verbs that are used to describe things that you do to yourself. For example, going to bed, you can say dormir, which means to go to bed, or dormirse, which means that you go yourself to bed, you sleep yourself. And the next one is sitting down, sentar. So you can say sentar, which means to sit down, or sentarse, to sit yourself down. We also have getting angry, enojar. And you can say to get angry or to get yourself angry, enojarse. So this is something that you do to yourself. And some other examples are hacer, which means to do. And if we add se at the end, we will say to do to yourself, hacerse, to yourself. You do something to yourself. And the way this works is that you take the normal form of the verb. It's called the infinitive verb, but we just call it the normal verb because it's easier to remember. For example, hacer, then we add se after hacer. Lavar, lavarse. Bañar, bañarse. Levantar, levantarse. So let's look at the example with lavar, which means to wash. And if we add se, it means to wash yourself. Bañar, to shower. And bañarse, to shower yourself. So you can say bañar when you're showering something like showering your dog, baño el perro. But if you're washing yourself, you're showering yourself, you would say bañarse. So you're doing it to yourself. I would say me baño, estoy bañándome, bañarme. So you do it to yourself, bañarme. And another example would be levantar, which means to get up, and levantarse, to get yourself up. So for example, levantar, I would use it with my phone. So levanto el teléfono, I get the phone up, I pick up the phone, levantar. But if I pick myself up, I get myself up, I would say levantarse. So levantarme, me because it's myself, se is because it's the normal form. We also have sentar, sentarse, and sentarse. To sit down, to sit yourself down. Poner, to put on, and ponerse, to put on yourself. Llamar, to call, and llamarse, to call yourself. And we can actually use the Spanish conjugator for this. Let's see some examples. So, for example, I would use lavar, so which means to wash. Here we have to wash. And if we look at the conjugations, we have yo lavo, I wash. Tú lavas, you wash. Ella lava, she washes, he or she washes. And if we add se at the end, we will get new conjugations. So here we have the new conjugations. Yo me lavo. Tú te lavas. Él, ella, usted se lava. So the same thing for hacer, which means to do. Yo hago. I do. Tú haces. You do. Él hace. And the rest of the conjugations. And if we add se at the end, it means that you're doing it to yourself. Yo me hago. Tú te haces. Él, ella, usted se hace. Nosotros hacemos. And the other conjugations. So you can also use the conjugator to better understand these ones and to basically practice with them. Okay, let's try the next one. So whenever you refer to I, something you're doing to yourself, you would say yo me. I do it to myself. Yo me. When it comes to you, you would say tú te. So you do it to yourself. Él se. He does it to himself. Ella se, she to herself. Uno, which means one. Uno se, one does something to himself. Usted se, which is you but formal. Usted. So you do something to yourself, formal you. Nosotros nos, we do something to ourselves. Vosotros os, this one is used in Spain only. Vosotros, so you do something to yourselves. Ellos se, so they do something to yourself. Ellos, ellas. And ustedes, which is you do something to yourselves, but used outside of Spain, in the other countries, we use ustedes. Ustedes se, you do something to yourselves. So let's practice with the first example. Yo me, I do something to myself. For example, me baño en la casa. I shower myself at home. You can actually put the yo before. For example, yo me baño en la casa. Or you can actually just leave it out because yo me is there's only one. So basically one form for these ones. Yo me baño. Or me baño en la casa. And the other example would be me llamo Hugo. My name is Hugo. But in Spanish we say I call myself Hugo. Yo me llamo Hugo. Me llamo. So it means my name is Hugo, but we say I call myself. Yo me llamo Hugo. And then we have tú te, which is you do something to yourself. Tú te. And for example, ¿cómo te llamas? So how do you call yourself? ¿Cómo te llamas? Basically, what's your name? But in Spanish, we say, how do you call yourself? ¿Cómo te llamas? And another one will be, te lavas la cara, which means you wash your face. You wash your face. Or you can say, tú te lavas la cara, which means the same. But you can also leave it out because there's only one form, tú te. Okay, the next example will be, él se, which means he does something to himself. Él se. We also have ella. Ella se. She does something to herself. Uno se. One does something to oneself or to itself. And usted, which means you formal. Usted se. You do something to yourself. But this one is the formal version of you. Okay, let's try the first example. Él se levanta a las 7, which means he gets up at 7. He gets himself up at 7. Él se, he himself. Él se levanta a las 7. And then we also have ella. Ella se pone una camisa. So she puts on a shirt herself. Ella se pone una camisa. So she's doing it to herself. She's putting the shirt onto herself. And we also have uno se enoja. One gets himself angry. Uno se enoja. Or one gets angry. And we also have usted se sienta aquí. So you sit yourself here. Usted se sienta aquí. You sit yourself here. And we also have nosotros nos, which means we to ourselves. Something that we do to ourselves. And we also have nosotras for female. Nosotras nos. So we do something to ourselves. And the example is nosotros nos quedamos en casa. We stay at home. So we stay ourselves at home. Nosotros nos quedamos en casa. And we also have nosotras, which is female for we. Nosotras nos sentimos felices. We feel happy. Nosotras nos sentimos felices. So we feel happy ourselves. We feel ourselves happy. Okay, let's try the next one. Ellos se, which is they do something to themselves. Or ellas, female for female they, do something to themselves. and ustedes, which is the formal version of yourselves. Okay, let's try this one. Ellos se pelean, which means they fight themselves. So they are fighting they are fighting with each other. Ellos se pelean. They are fighting with each other. They themselves are fighting with each other. And the next example will be ellas se dan regalos, which means they give each other presents. So ellas se dan regalos. So that's everything for this one, and you can check out the Quizlet so you can practice a little bit with this one. So thanks for watching. So now it's your turn to practice Spanish. You can find the lessons Quizlet by going into the lecture resources folder. Thanks for watching.